Hello and welcome to Storytime. We have just 2 more stories this week, and next week, will be the last ones. And we would have gone all the way through the big picture of the Bible together using the amazing storyboard. I hope that you've been enjoying the story. So today I just want to tell you a little bit more about Paul. Let's put Paul over here. Remember, Paul is now in Rome. And look, he's not in prison, but he's in his own rented house. And he's under house arrest. So I'm going to put this soldier here because you see, Paul wasn't able really to move about freely. He could have people visit him in his house. So let's put some people over here. And, lots of people came to listen to Paul, and he told them about Jesus, and the church in Rome grew and grew as Paul was there. Now, we're not absolutely sure what happened to Paul, but we do know that he would eventually die in Rome, and he wouldn't be crucified, but he would be beheaded. But you see, the good news of Jesus is spreading all over the place now. From that rented house where he was under arrest in Rome, Paul was able to write lots of letters to lots of churches in lots and lots of different places. And one letter he wrote to a man called Philemon. Let's put Philemon. Philemon lived over here in a place called Ephesus in Turkey. And Paul had stayed with Philemon. He may have even helped Philemon to become a Christian. Now, we know from Paul's letter to Philemon that he wrote when he was in Rome that Philemon had a slave. Here he is, and his name was Onesimus. Can you say Onesimus? Onesimus. Okay, so we know that Onesimus at some point stole something from Philemon and ran away. He was a runaway slave. So look, he runs away and he finds himself in Rome. Now, if he was caught, he would be killed. But he found himself in Rome, and believe it or not, he manages to find Paul. Let's put Paul here. He manages to find Paul. So he must have come at some point to Paul's rented house. And Paul maybe recognised him as the slave of Philemon. Do you know what? There in Rome, Philemon's slave, Onesimus, becomes a Christian. And Paul says to him, Onesimus, you need to go back to Philemon. And you need to go back. And I'm going to write you a letter. You need to go back and say sorry. You need to go back and tell him what you did. And I will write a letter on your behalf. So Paul sent Onesimus back. He didn't go on his own. He went with another man called Titus. And Titus carried the letter to Philemon. And he went back. And in Paul's letter, Paul was saying to Philemon that if Onesimus has stolen anything from you, then receive it back from me. I will make it good for you. He went away as your slave, but receive him back as your brother in Jesus Christ, because he's now become a Christian. Isn't that an amazing story? That he would run away and he would go so far to another country, and there he would become a Christian. Sometimes people become Christians when they run away, when they go through bad times, and sometimes when not good things happen. Isn't that amazing? Well, there were other people that Paul wrote to, and other people also that God was using. Who's this one over here? Well, this, we'll say, is Timothy. And Paul had trained Timothy, remember? He picked him up, or not picked him up, but he joined Paul on his second journey. May have become a Christian on Paul's first journey. And then Paul took him, discipled him, and then sent him off as a Christian leader himself. And Timothy went to different places. One place he went to was Ephesus. And there he taught the people. Who's this? This is Titus. Can you say Titus? Titus was another one. Paul would call them like spiritual sons. He would train them and teach them and send them to tell people about Jesus. Titus was sent to the Greek island of Crete. Yes, he went to Crete, and there he taught the leaders. Some of them had got into some bad teaching, and Paul wanted to teach them the truth about Jesus. So Paul sent Titus to Crete to sort some things out that had gone wrong. So that's Titus. Who's next? Well, let me put this man over here. This is James. We'll say this is James. And James was one of Jesus's brothers. Yes, his half-brothers, of course, because Jesus was the Son of God. And James was from Mary and Joseph. And James wrote a letter. And in his letter, he wanted people to make sure, Christians to make sure that they didn't just talk about their faith or say, hey, I'm a Christian, but showed people how much they love God by the good things that they did. So James, in his letter, he talked about real religion. Real Christianity is about looking after widows and orphans. It's about caring for the poor. It's about not showing favoritism. And you know, James would write this. He would say, consider it absolutely joyful when you go through difficult times, troubles and hardship, because there your faith will grow if you keep your eyes fixed on Jesus and you persevere. You what? You persevere and don't give up. Okay, someone else. Let's put him over here. This is Peter. Of course, Peter was one of Jesus' disciples, wasn't he? Peter would write 2 letters. And just like Jesus had asked him to, Peter became a shepherd, not of sheep, but of people. And he would train and he would teach the church the things of God. And he would train younger people as well to be good shepherds and pastors and leaders in God's church. Okay, who's this? This is Jude. Jude was the brother of James and also the half-brother of Jesus. He wrote a letter in the Bible as well. I'm going to move this one up a little bit. He wrote a letter. And you know, in his letter, he was writing to Christians and saying, be careful, because there's a lot of wrong teaching that some people are saying is from the Bible. And it's not. It's wrong teaching. It's false teaching. Watch out, he said, because in the last days, there'll be people pretending to teach the truth, and they will not be teaching the truth. Well, that's Jude. He also said in his letter that God is able to keep us from falling away, keep us from sinning and from losing our faith. He will keep us to the very, very end. Isn't that lovely? And the last person I want to tell you about today is, let's put him here. This is John. I know he looks like Paul, but you know, some of these people play different characters. This is John, one of Jesus' disciples. And Jesus has said to John, when he hung on the cross, he said, John, will you look after my mum? And so this is Mary. And you know what? John took Mary into his own home when Jesus died, rose again and went back to heaven. And he looked after her like his own mum. In fact, we believe he went to Ephesus and there looked after Mary. But the last thing I want to say to you today is about this island here. This is an island. It's a prison island, and it's a Greek island called Patmos at the time of the Bible here. And who is this? This is John. And John eventually was captured by the Romans, and he was sent to this island where he was a prisoner on this island. And on this island, God gave John an incredible vision, a revelation. And you know what that is? It's the last book in the Bible. We started with the first book called Genesis, the beginnings. And the book of Revelation talks about the end of all things, when Jesus himself will come back again. John had this incredible revelation of the end times. Next week will be the last week, and I will tell you about John's vision, the book of Revelation. I hope that you will look forward to that. See you next time. God bless.